Okay, so today we're going down a pretty dark path with this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at a true crime case from India, and the details are honestly pretty chilling.
Definitely.
It all starts in this quiet town, Udvada, where a 19-year-old college student is found dead by the railway tracks.
Right.
Just a young life brutally cut short.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about this case is how it starts as this local tragedy and then explodes into a nationwide manhunt.
Wow.
At first, the investigators were hitting a wall.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They had a young woman found without clothes.
Oh, wow.
Signs of assault.
Oh, geez.
But very few clues to go on.
So how do they even know where to start?
Well, the Udvada station where she would pass through on her way home from tutoring didn't even have CCTV cameras.
Wait, no security cameras in a train station?
Nope.
It's kind of wild to think about these days.
It was a huge setback for the investigation.
Yeah.
It meant they couldn't retrace her steps.
Right.
Couldn't see who she might have interacted with.
Oh.
They were basically working blind.
So how did they even begin to piece together what happened?
It's amazing how the smallest details can change a case.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, they found her backpack and a white sweatshirt near the scene?
Right.
Those became their only solid leads.
Really?
They started looking at footage from other stations along the same line,
Okay.
hoping to spot anyone matching that description.
Makes sense.
And finally, they got a break.
Oh.
CCTV footage from a station before Udvada showed a man wearing that same sweatshirt, carrying a similar backpack.
It's like something out of a movie.
Right?
They have a visual, but this is India.
Huge country.
The railway network's massive.
Exactly.
How do you even track someone down in a system like that?
It really is like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Thousands of miles of track, countless passengers every day.
Right.
But the investigators got lucky.
Oh.
A hawker at Bandra station in Mumbai.
One of the busiest in the country, I'm guessing?
Yeah, one of the busiest recognized the suspect from the police description.
You're kidding, just pure chance.
It shows the power of community vigilance.
Absolutely.
This hawker had seen the police notices, memorized the details.
Wow.
And then boom, there he was.
Incredible.
The suspect, later identified as Rahul Jat, was actually boarding a train to Bhuj when the police apprehended him.
Wow, so they caught the guy, case closed.
Well, that's where this deep dive gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
During interrogation, Jat's confession revealed something much more sinister.
What do you mean?
He didn't just murder this one woman in Udvada.
Oh, no.
He confessed to a string of murders across India.
Multiple murders. How many are we talking?
5 in total.
5.
All committed within a month.
That's horrifying.
Each victim was a vulnerable woman.
Jeez, 5. That's awful. What kind of monster does something like that?
And it gets worse.
How?
What's really disturbing is that he specifically targeted women traveling alone, often in the coaches reserved for handicapped passengers.
That's just pure evil, preying on those who are already facing challenges.
Right.
Who might be less able to defend themselves. It's beyond comprehension.
It is.
But what could drive someone to commit such horrific acts?
Well, Jat's own background sheds some light on that.
Right.
He was a polio victim and claimed to have experienced constant mistreatment and contempt because of his disability.
So is it possible his experiences fueled a twisted sense of revenge?
It's a possibility, and the article explores the psychology of it all.
Right.
But even if we understand his past, it doesn't excuse his actions.
Of course not.
5 innocent lives were lost, and that's the real tragedy at the heart of this deep dive.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, this case is about way more than just one man's crimes.
Right.
It makes us think about how societal prejudice can actually create violence.
Yeah.
We're not saying it excuses Jat's actions,
Of course not.
but understanding that link between personal experience and society.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We talk about safety and awareness all the time.
Right.
But this case really shows why those are so important.
Absolutely.
It's not just about protecting ourselves.
Right.
It's about making a society where being vulnerable isn't a target.
Exactly. And speaking of vulnerability,
Yeah.
this case showed something truly chilling.
What was that?
4 out of Jat's 5 victims were found in the coaches meant for handicapped passengers.
You're kidding?
It breaks that idea of safety even in spaces designed for protection.
It really makes you think, if even those designated safe spaces aren't truly safe,
Yeah.
what does that say about safety on public transportation in general?
So especially for women?
Yeah, especially for women.
It's a wake-up call.
Yeah, it is.
We need to talk seriously about protecting the most vulnerable.
Okay.
Not just with words, but with actions.
So where do we even begin? What are the steps to prevent something like this happening again?
Well, the article goes into this.
Okay.
And it's more than police or stricter laws.
Right.
It's about a total shift in how we think about security, like the issue of surveillance technology.
Yeah, you mentioned the lack of cameras at the first station.
Right.
But even when cameras are trowns, there are challenges.
Oh, definitely.
Think about all the data from CCTV on a system as big as India's railways.
It's huge.
Just managing and using that data effectively.
That's a whole other problem.
So it's not just having cameras, it's
Yeah.
having the right ones and the tech to actually use the information.
Exactly.
What about things like facial recognition software? Is that being used?
More and more, but it's complicated.
How so?
You've got privacy concerns, potential biases in the algorithms.
Right.
Those have to be weighed carefully.
So it's a balancing act, enhancing security without giving up freedom.
It is.
But what about solutions beyond technology? What about the human element?
The article talks about better training for railway staff
Makes sense.
so they can recognize suspicious behavior, de-escalate conflicts,
Right.
and respond in emergencies.
So empowering the people already there to be more proactive.
Exactly.
But what about us, the passengers? Can we do anything?
Absolutely. The article really highlights community awareness. Passengers need to know safety procedures, how to report things,
Right.
and even be ready to step in if something's wrong.
So shifting from passive to active,
Yeah,
understanding that safety is everyone's responsibility.
exactly. But it's easy to say be vigilant.
Right. What does that actually look like day to day?
How do you do that without being paranoid?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good question. Vigilance doesn't mean living in fear.
I hope not.
It's about being aware, trusting your gut, and knowing what to do if something feels off.
Okay.
It's creating a culture where we all look out for each other
Right.
and don't hesitate to speak up.
So finding that balance between awareness and fear.
Exactly. And I think that's key here.
To what?
Safety isn't just cameras and guards. It's about all of us taking responsibility for a safer environment.
I like that collective responsibility.
Yeah,
It's not all on the police or technology.
right.
It's about recognizing we all have a part to play.
Yeah, but honestly,
Good.
even with the best security in a vigilant community, there's no guarantee of safety.
That's true.
There'll always be people who want to cause harm,
Right.
and no system's perfect.
So then what?
We can't give up or live in fear.
I agree.
We have to keep working to make these tragedies less likely.
Right.
Do everything we can to protect the vulnerable.
It's a sobering thought, but safety is an ongoing effort.
It is.
Something we constantly need to work at, adapt and learn from these tragedies.
For sure. But even with all that,
Yeah.
there's a bigger issue here.
What's that?
This guy targeted women specifically.
Right.
He chose those he saw as weak.
It's awful.
It points to a deeper problem in our society.
You're absolutely right. This case forces us to look at gender-based violence,
Yeah.
the prejudice and inequality that make women targets.
And it goes beyond physical violence.
What do you mean?
It's the everyday sexism and discrimination
Right.
that create an environment where violence can happen.
It's the catcalls, the leering, the dismissive attitudes, the
Okay.
constant undermining of women's voices and experiences,
Yes. It's a culture that often teaches women to be afraid,
to be submissive.
to doubt themselves.
And this case sadly shows the consequences of that.
It does.
It shows what can happen when those subtle forms of sexism turn into something much worse.
It's a wake-up call for everyone, men and women,
To do what?
to look at our own biases, our own part in a system that allows violence to continue.
So what can we do? How do we challenge these deep-rooted societal norms?
It's a huge task, but it starts small.
Like what?
Speaking up when you hear sexist jokes.
Okay.
Challenging discrimination, supporting organizations that empower women.
So change the whole narrative.
Yes, from fear and silence to empowerment and accountability.
And educating ourselves about the root causes of gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
Understanding it's not just a women's issue, but everyone's issue.
Exactly.
A societal issue.
Yes.
So this deep dive isn't just analyzing a crime.
Right.
It's about starting a conversation, a movement towards a better world.
I agree, where tragedies like this become unthinkable.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message for our listeners.
It is.
This case, as heartbreaking as it is, can be a turning point
Hopefully.
where we say, enough is enough.
It's a call to action, an invitation to fight for a world where everyone can live free from fear.
Regardless of their gender.
Exactly.
So it's not about despair, it's about taking action.
I agree.
The article has some pretty solid ideas to prevent this happening again.
Yeah.
Where do we even start?
One big thing is a total change in security for public transport.
Okay.
More surveillance, better lighting on platforms and inside trains,
Okay.
and just a more visible security presence overall.
More cameras, lights, guards. It makes sense. But wouldn't that be super expensive on a system as big as India's railways?
It would be a big investment, for sure.
Right.
But the article argues that doing nothing costs even more.
In what way?
Think about the human cost.
Yeah.
The loss of life, the trauma to victims and their families, the impact on communities.
You can't really put a price on that. But it's not just about throwing money at the problem, is it?
No, it's about using it right.
Oh.
Investing in the technologies that actually work to stop crime and help investigations.
So not just any camera will do.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking high-resolution, strategically placed ones
I see.
that can get clear images even in low light.
And it's the software too, right?
Oh, definitely. The analytical tools to go through all that data and find threats.
So facial recognition, motion detection algorithms.
Exactly.
But what about the ethical concerns with that tech?
Right.
We talked about privacy and bias.
Those are important.
How do we balance safety with freedom?
The article says these technologies need to be used responsibly,
Okay.
with safeguards in place.
So finding that sweet spot between security and liberty.
Yeah, one that protects rights but keeps everyone safe.
It's a tough one for sure.
Oh.
But tech aside,
Uh-huh.
it comes down to people, doesn't it?
It always does.
The human element is still so crucial.
Absolutely. That's why better training for railway staff is key.
What kind of training?
Recognizing potential trouble, de-escalating things, and responding well in emergencies.
So making them more proactive in keeping things safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But passengers can play a role too.
Okay. Also.
It's about community awareness.
Right.
People feeling empowered to report suspicious stuff, to intervene if someone's in trouble.
So being active participants in their own safety and everyone else's.
Exactly.
But it's one thing to say, be vigilant. What does that actually look like?
Right. How do you do that without being paranoid?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, vigilance isn't about fear.
Okay, good.
It's about being aware, trusting your gut, knowing what to do if something feels off.
Right.
It's creating a culture where we look out for each other and speak up if something's wrong.
So finding that balance between being aware and being afraid
Yeah. And that's a big takeaway here.
from this whole case.
Yeah. Safety isn't just about cameras and guards.
It's more than that.
It's about all of us being responsible for a safer world.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
But even with all that, the best security, the most vigilant people, there's no guarantee, right?
Sadly, no. There will always be people who want to hurt others.
And no system can stop them all.
But we can't just give up or live in fear.
What can we do then?
We keep working to make tragedies less likely to protect the vulnerable.
So true safety is a constant effort.
It is.
We have to adapt, learn from what happens, and keep pushing forward.
Exactly. We've talked about a lot today.
Yeah, this case has been heavy.
It has.
From the details of the crimes to what it says about society as a whole.
Right.
But what I keep thinking about is that we all have a part to play in making things safer.
We do.
It can feel overwhelming,
It can.
but it's a responsibility we can't ignore.
You're absolutely right. This case, as horrible as it is,
Yeah,
can be a chance for change.
I hope so.
It reminds us that we can't be complacent. We all have to do something.
Whether it's pushing for better security, challenging bad attitudes, or just being more aware and looking out for each other.
Exactly. We can all make the world a little bit safer.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the question we leave you with is this.
Yeah.
What will you do in your own life to make the world a little safer, a little kinder, a little more just,
It's a big question.
but one worth thinking about?
Definitely. One we hope you'll keep in mind long after this.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.